Oh, yes, wonderful. R-O. I-O. Yep. We'll stick. Buenas noches a todo el mundo. All my good friends, line up here. Todos mis amigos vamos a hacer una fila para y vamos a ir abajo y nos vamos a divertir.
I can see it.
How are you, Nicholas? Good. While your parents are in school, they're in school. No, my daughter's gonna make that. She's back here. So tell them don't rush. I'm gonna show you, okay? Mis familias hispanas. Okay, now look straight. You gotta hold on to the rail. Okay? All right. What? Okay. Smile. Oh, look. Lost that foot?
Let me go.
Now we have to hold on, okay? Okay. I know, right? Wait, stay behind me.
Good evening, good evening.
Buenas noches.
Thank you all for coming out.
Gracias por venir. ¿Nos pueden escuchar? ¿Nos escuchan? Can you hear us? Okay.
Thank you all for coming out to Effective Discipline for Children 2 through 12. This is for K through second grade.
Gracias por venir a la sección que es afectiva de este workshop que tenemos hoy en la noche de kindergarten al segundo grado.
Our presenters for the evening are Ms. Parks and Ms. Nichols.
Los que van a presentar nuestras maestras es la señora Park y la señora Nichols.
And we ask that, with the exception of the interpreters, that you give your undivided attention to the presenters this evening.
Y por favor, le pedimos que pongan su atención en la presentación. Pongan mucha atención porque lo que van a presentar es muy efectivo y es muy importante.
Tonight, between tonight and tomorrow, you will receive the evaluations for this presentation.
Entre hoy y mañana ustedes van a recibir la forma de la evaluación, creo que por el correo electrónico.
Through email, along with the presentation with QR codes for resources.
Añadiendo a la evaluación que van a recibir por correo electrónico, también vamos a incluir lo que se presentó en el PowerPoint con el QR code.
Prepare to be entertained and learn and have a good time, and let us know if you have any questions.
Prepárense a tener un buen tiempo y escuchar y esperemos de que sea muy efectivo para ustedes. Gracias.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ms. Sparks, and I am a counselor. I'm a counselor at Laurel Elementary School. I've been a counselor for a number of years. I don't want to say how many years, but a number of years. So I've always been a counselor at Laurel Elementary School. So.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Nicolette Nickel. I am a mental health professional, also a social worker. I've been a social worker about 5 years, and I work alongside Ms. Parks at Laurel Elementary, providing counseling services for our students.
And does anybody need translation? Oh, okay. All right. This is our second session for Great Start. We are doing 1, 2, 3 Magic, which is a discipline program for children 2 to 12. Is a way to that you can have effective discipline with your children. So in the first session, we talked about different things that children do that are very difficult at home sometimes to discipline. And we talked about start and stop behaviors. We can go and go. Yeah. So in our first session, we talked about stop behaviors like whining and arguing, yelling, and temper tantrums. How many parents have those going on at home? Their kids that have temper tantrums or whining or yelling or not listening. How many parents deal with that at home? Show your hands if you deal with that at home. Okay. And sometimes we may want to scream because we're like, I keep telling you not to do that. So we're going to find ways that you can be happy and they can be happy too. So in this second session, we're going to talk about start behaviors, how to get kids to start things without a whole lot of drama, a lot of hassle, a lot of yelling, and them being willing to do the behaviors. So we're going to watch a video, and all of these videos are on YouTube. You can watch it. It's talking about getting kids to listen to 1, 2, 3 Magic.
Hello, everybody. Tom Phelan again here with another 8-minute parenting tip. Our topic today is getting kids to listen. When I do trade shows and answer emails, this is probably almost the most frequent question that we get here in the office and in our practice. A couple of examples. It's you're riding along with the kids, they're in the back seat, and they are fighting like cats and dogs. You yell, knock it off back there. And what do? They keep fighting like cats and dogs. Second example, you have a son, he's 11 years old, and at the dinner table you say, do you have any homework tonight? Hour later, he's sitting in the family room watching television. And item number 3, this guy wants something to eat before dinner. It's about 15 minutes to dinner time. He asks for some potato chips, and you tell him no. You give him a veto, and he badgers you with why. So you wonder sometimes as a parent if your kids don't speak English or whatever the language is in your house. They probably do, but let's look at this problem a little bit differently. What if it went like this in our 3 examples? You say, knock it off back there, and one of the kids says, sorry, Mom, we know it's aggravating when we fight while you're driving. We'll stop. Do you have any homework tonight? Thanks for the reminder. I forgot I have a ton of stuff to do. I'll get right on it. And the veto before dinner. No, you're right about the potato chips and pop. It's way too close to dinner, and I wouldn't be hungry at all. So this would be pretty surprising, wouldn't it? That would be delightful, and that's what we hope for. In fact, this is what we wish fondly, how kids would respond to us. That's what we wish. And, we parents don't give up our wishes easily. And believe it or not, this wish of ours has a name. It's called the little adult assumption. The little adult assumption is the idea in our parent brains that children are just smaller versions of us adults. They're basically reasonable and unselfish, and they respond well to logical, helpful reminders, requests, and commands. Sorry, if you were wanting to wish that or believe that, that's incorrect. What do we usually do? When we want the kids to listen, we typically give spontaneous, means on spur of the moment, commands, requests, reasons, explanations. We often do this in an anxious or angry voice. Children, on the other hand, are naturally impatient. They're focused on now, what they're doing. They don't want to be interrupted. They're self-centered. They're easily frustrated, and they're very emotional. So you put all this together, what do you get? The results are that kids don't listen. So our first thing for today is an attitude adjustment for us adults. You may not care for this, but we have to think differently if we're going to get better results from our kids when it comes to listening. So we have to learn to think what I'm going to describe to you right now. Typically developing, or what we sometimes refer to as normal children, do not usually listen very well. The problem is worse the younger they are. And if we don't change our attitude, we won't look for different strategies. We'll keep doing the same thing, the anxious, angry commands, requests, explanations, and so on. And we'll still be complaining next year that kids don't listen very well. So we have to leave fantasy land and come up with a plan. What's the plan going to be? Well, the overall philosophy you want for your plan to get your kids to listen and to be a good parent is to, number 1, avoid spontaneous commands and requests as much as you can. You can't always do it, but spur of the moment is not good. You want to train kids for independence. This is something we are lousy at, absolutely lousy at in the United States. We train our kids to respond to spontaneous commands and requests from parents. We don't train them to be self-starters. We want to take into account the age and executive functioning skills of our kids, which I'll show you on the next slide. And we want to establish routines for getting these things done when we want the kids to listen. So executive functioning, you've probably heard the phrase, but it's the ability to remember and carry out a plan. And executive functioning ability and stamina, if you want, gets stronger and longer as the kids get older. So a 6-year-old can remember and carry out a plan, take about 10 minutes. So you can do about 10 minutes of homework in a 6-year-old, about 20 minutes of homework in a 7-year-old. And you see it's going up about 10 minutes per year, roughly, for a task that is fairly boring, not the most exciting thing in the world. Don't forget, preschoolers are not on this chart, but they go up to 10 minutes. So a 4-year-old, you can think maybe they can do 4 minutes, 5 minutes, or something like that in sustaining a plan. So let's look at a couple of our examples that we, some of the ones we talked about before, and talk about what else could we do if we want to get the kids to listen. This happened to me just this morning. I saw a mom with her little girl who was about 4 years old, and the girl was riding a bike down the street, down the sidewalk, and they were coming to a street. As the girl got close to the street, she was slowing down. The mom said, "Stop." And the little girl keeps slowing down, and the mom said, "Stop," again, in kind of an anxious voice. I'm going to suggest something this mom could have done. It's called wait and praise. Instead of doing the spontaneous, anxious command as she did, if there's a high probability the girl's going to stop anyway, and I bet with this other girl she would have stopped. She was almost stopped anyway. What mom could have done is wait until she stops and then praise her. Wow, you remember to stop at the street. That's great. After the little girl had self-started and stopped her bike on her own and didn't have to be commanded or requested or whatever. This is training for independence. Let's do another example. We had a little boy before at the dinner table. Mom says, "Do you have any homework tonight?" Now this kid's, let's imagine he's about 11 years old. So his executive functioning skills is going to be up 40 minutes, 50 minutes, maybe an hour, something like that. This kid likes school and he likes his teachers. So we're going to do natural consequences. We're going to tell him, you're a big enough kid now to be able to remember your own homework without a reminder from mom. And reminders are going to be outlawed from mom, dad, or anybody. And we're going to see how you do. This kid likes school. He likes his teachers. So what are the parents going to do? They're going to coach. They're going to praise. They're going to encourage. They're going to listen, but they're not going to remind him to do it. Again, this is training for independence. It's getting the kids to listen to what? Get their homework done, but on their own. Let's do another example. Sibling rivalry. You had that example. The kids were fighting in the car. Now, how much of executive functioning skill does it take to stop a misbehavior of some kind like fighting? It only takes about a half a second. So here we're going to use counting from 1, 2, 3 magic. We're going to count both kids. We're not going to ask the world's stupidest question, who started it? And we'll pull our car off to the side of the road if need be, if the kids hit a rest period or timeout. We're going to say nothing in terms of explanation. What is this doing? It's training the kids to get used to the idea of monitoring themselves and stopping it. And they stop it with the first count, and they get more and more independent as time goes on. So another way of looking at this is that listening means two things. Sometimes we want the kids to listen because we want them to stop an obnoxious behavior. And sometimes we want the kids to listen because we want them to start a positive behavior. In 1, 2, 3 magic, we have two strategies for these things. For obnoxious behavior, we use counting. And for positive behavior, we use routines. We're going to set up routines for the kids so they don't have to listen. We don't have to go through this command, "I hope you listen to me" routine. So the book is 1, 2, 3 magic. This is kind of an introduction to how to get the kids to listen. And there's the website. Best of luck to you.
Okay. So there's a couple examples in the video about getting your kids to change some of their behaviors. One of the things we cannot assume that students are or kids are adults. They're not little adults. So one of the ways that we can do that is to establish routines with our children. How many people have routines about going to bed, getting up, getting ready for school? I can't really see because the lights are off. But it's important that you establish routines with your kids. It helps them to develop and know what to expect. So for example, if you know during the week, the school week, you have a certain time that you get up at the same time every day. You get up and you wash yourself and you get your clothes already out, ready to go for them so they know what to do. Eventually they will become more independent because it's a routine. And then you won't have to fuss with them because they already know what the routine is. Sometimes that always doesn't happen because there's different things that may happen and you might have a change in routine. But if your routine is consistent, it is very helpful. We have to change how we address our kids. Behaviors are changed. You can't change the child's behavior. You have to change how you respond to the child. So it's very important that you establish routines, establish structure in your home, organize your home so it's easier for the kids and they learn how to become more independent based off the fact that you have routine and structure and organization. Also, when you have siblings, they had the example about siblings. It's very important that you establish the counting routine. We had talked about that the last time, counting. And it's the first time may be a little difficult, but as you continue to do it and you continue with the routine, kids will start to say, okay, she's counting, then I need to stop. This is what she wants us to stop doing. And then, talk less. When you're giving commands, don't give a whole list of things because kids can only manage so much information. Oops, sorry. Oh, you have one. Does anybody have any questions?
All right.
I can't see it. Can someone turn the lights on in the back? I'm sorry. I feel a little weird. It's dark in here. I can't see everybody. I know it might be easier. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, if you can have the lights off in the front. Okay, that's good. Yeah,
Right
that's
there.
good. That's good. Thank you.
All right. So next we're going to talk about the start behavior. So these are the behaviors that we want to kind of change and want them to start doing. So what do you want your child to start doing that they are not doing already? So some of those things are we want them to be more independent in reading and doing their homework. We don't want them to fight when it's time to go to bed. We want them to learn how to clean up after themselves without having to tell them. Getting up in the morning without them fighting you, being more responsible for their personal belongings, and also being more independent about their self-care. So like example, just getting ready in the morning, like Ms. Park said, getting having their clothes already out and them getting ready in the morning for school.
Does anybody have any behaviors that they're concerned about right now that they want to talk about, that we can talk about? Okay, well then I guess.
And the last one is we want them, of course, to be respectful to themselves and others.
Does anybody have problems with their kids not being respectful and talking back? Okay. So one of the things that when you're having a child that's talking back, you want to, give them 5 minutes. You might want to have the 1, 2, 3, you count down. Once you count down, explain to them, this is how, if you need something from me, this is how you speak to me. You have to explain to them, this is what I expect to see. They need to know what your expectations are. So that's one way that you can work on getting them to be more respectful and just talking about what respect is. And, say, please. What are you supposed to say? Thank you. That's how you kind of work through it, the process of that.
So establishing some of these positive routines, you first want to start a behavior. So starting the behavior is a job. So it needs to be continued and completed. So you need to have consistency. just like with the 1, 2, 3 magic. It doesn't always work the first time, but the more you keep doing it, eventually they'll catch on and start to get it. So having positive behavior is also good, but it isn't very useful if you don't have the children willing to execute the 1, 2, 3 magic. So a way to establish and maintain routines is defining the procedure. So you're telling them or giving them an expectation, what you want them to do. And then you want to rehearse it. So that means you might want to model it for them and then walk through it with them and do it together. So until they get it.
How many people have trouble with your kids getting up in the morning and getting ready for school? Okay. So there's a routine.
Yes.
So your routine could be, all right, I'm going to set my alarm clock and I'm going to get up at whatever time they have to, like maybe 40 minutes before it's time to get up. You go and wake them up. You say, okay, it's time, a gentle wake up, which would be, it's time to get up. All right, let's get up. Make sure their clothes are already out and ready to go. You say, okay, now, and you might have a chart in your room. The chart might be, okay, the first thing I do, I brush my teeth. I wash my face. I then do this and do that, and make sure they're following the chart, because that's teaching them independence and routine. You have to do this every day in order for them to it becomes automatic for them. So you do it every day. I know it's a struggle sometimes because you're just like, let's just go, let's go. We got stuff to do. But you have to slow process, like a gentle, like, okay, come on, it's time to get up. Remember what we have to do, look at the chart. What do you have to do first? And have them read it. If they can't read, put pictures, make a picture chart. If it's brush your teeth, okay, we've done that. Good job. And you encourage them by saying, good job. Or you can say, I'll put a sticker by the chart. If you get up without any problem, we're going to put a sticker. And if you have, maybe 10 stickers for the week, we're going to do this, this, and this. But that's kind of later on. But you have to practice those things, just like homework. Have the routine. All right, let's go through your backpack. And you have to go through, because you can't just ask them, because kids tell stories. When I was little, I told stories. Yes, I don't have any homework, and would go about my day knowing I had homework in my backpack. But that's what they do. I think everybody has done that and not been truthful to their parents. So you had the routine. Again, another chart. Okay, let's get our book bag. Open up our book bag. You did that. Let's take out our folder. All right, or check our agenda book. Okay, let's say, do we have homework? Okay, let's sit down. And sometimes if your kids are struggling academically, you might just need to sit there with them to help them through the process. Be like, okay, well, let's try. You try your best. Okay, if they're not bringing homework home, I'll say, well, I'm going to call your teacher, or I'm going to dodo your teacher to see whether or not you have homework. They might change their tune because they know that you're in communication with the teacher. But have a routine about homework. This is where we sit to do homework. This is where, I'm going to set the timer. You have 45 minutes to do your work. Set the timer and say, look, the timer's going off. You get all your work done, I'm going to give you a sticker. So those are the things that you have to do with your kids and kind of help them through the process. Like if you don't understand the homework, you can always talk to the teacher. You can see if there's a neighbor that can help you or a family friend that can help you understand the homework. So that's, one of the ways that you could do it. It takes a lot of time on your end, but if you change the way you're doing it, then they're going to respond to how you're changing.
And I also wanted to add just having also a conducive area for the kids to do their homework. So like with no TV on, somewhere in a quiet space. So if they have to sit at the dining room table or maybe in their room at a desk, so they can get their homework done.
So how many people have a place for their kids to do their homework? They're already set up, ready to go. So that's something that you might want to start doing, is setting up a place for your kids. The best place, whatever area you have, try a small area, whatever, but try to set up for them to do their homework. All right. This next video talks about talking to your kids about 1, 2, 3 magic. It's very important that you have a conversation about what's going to happen. You don't want to spring it on them because they'll be like, what is this? I'm not doing 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to do it. They may do something else. So.
everyone. I'm Kate Berkner here today with Dr. Tom Phelan, author and creator of 123 Magic, as well as the Manager Mom Epidemic. Dr. Phelan, welcome.
Hi, Kay. How you doing?
I'm good. So today we are going to talk about talking to your kids about 123 Magic. And yes, if you're going to use the program, you do need to talk to your kids about it rather than just going. So before we jump into how to introduce this to your kids, I have a couple of questions on behalf of parents who might be wondering if this is going to work for them. Can you just remind us what ages the 123 Magic program will work for?
It's about 2 to 12 approximately. So if you have 18-month-old children, you can use it actually with kids that are 18 months old. Even though they can't say too many words, they can still understand the basic process. And on the other end, we don't start it with teenagers. So if you have kids that are, really 12 or over, you're probably not going to want to start it for the first time. If you've been doing it with kids pre-adolescent, then you can continue doing it through adolescence. You want to do it a little bit differently, but so basically it's about 18 months you can start, and on up to the tweens years, 11 or 12.
Okay, terrific. And once I've decided that I'm going to introduce 123 Magic into my household, about how long will it take before it starts working, before I start seeing results?
Well, here we get a bit of a range. On the good end, we have parents who will get things shaped up in about 3 hours, or almost immediately. And I know that sounds kind of funny, but that's where we got the title, where people said, "I can't believe it, it works like magic." And that really has a lot to do with counting. So they're doing the counting, the kids will shape up within 3 hours. And then those parents, you don't want to stop there. You got 2 other jobs. Another job is positive behavior, bedtime, homework, eating, getting up and out. So those you don't use counting for. So you might want to remember to do those. And then the bonding job as well. Now, so that's the good news. The bad news is there are some kids that will put their parents through what we call Hell Week. And that means 7 to 10 days of really, making believers out of them. The parents have to be religious about the no talking, no emotion rules. They have to know the answers to all the questions in chapter 6 about what if this happens, what if that happens, what if this, and so on. But if the parents stick with it and the parents are really committed and the parents remain calm and decisive, they'll get through that initial testing period, and you'll see the kids shaping up after about a week or so.
Yeah, even if that's the high end of the range, it feels like a week of struggle is probably worth having a calmer, happier, easier discipline program at home, for sure.
It really is. It's like don't give up the ship. Stick with it. And of course, if I'm working with those parents, which I have in the past, it's also nicer if they have a little moral support from somebody.
Yeah, for sure. It almost reminds me of like potty training. Like it's really, really miserable for a very short period of time, and then everything is much better for the most part. So
that's a good analogy.
You mentioned some kids will make this a little bit harder. Are there any kids that this program won't work for?
Number one, the kids really have to have a mental age of about 2. So if you have, say, a child who's under 18 months of age or so on, or you have a child on the spectrum, and their mental age is not 2. But if they're, ages 2 or more, you can usually use it for them. And then, as I mentioned before, if you have kids who are teens, we're not going to start the program with a 15-year-old. So if you have kids that are in the teenage years, you're not going to start it at that time.
Got it. Okay, terrific. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into it then. How do I talk to I've decided we're going to start doing 123 Magic in my house. I want this to be easier. How do I talk to my kids about that?
Okay, first thing you want to do is you want to know the program. And what that means is you want to have either read the book, watch the DVD, or whatever, so you understand the program and you know exactly what you're doing. Kids will pick up that sense of confidence from you. If you know what you're doing and you're committed to it, they'll pick that up, and that is worth gold. If they sense that you know what you're doing and this is what they're going to be doing, then they will be much more cooperative with it. If there's two of you at home, you have a husband, partner, or whatever, you want to make sure that you're both on the same page with the program. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so that's a good question. What if one parent is like super on board, I've read the whole book, I'm ready to go, and the other parent's not there yet?
Right. Well, guess which parents those will be.
I mean, I might be biased being the mom, but my guess is that largely because mom ends up being the primary caregiver for the kids a lot of the time, per stats you cite in the Manager Mom book, that maybe mom is the one who has actively sought out this program, and perhaps dad isn't quite there yet.
Yeah. And it's not maybe, it's about 95% of the time. We have a seminar coming up tomorrow, and there are over 100 people registered. I was looking at the list. 95% of them are women. But that's the way it usually is. It's usually about 75, 80%. So anyway, the question is, if you have a mom who's read the book or whatever, and she wants to get dad involved, the first thing is to see if dad will read the book, or both of you read it together. Second thing is you can do a date night thing and watch the video. So you watch the video, then you go out to dinner together and discuss how you're going to implement the program at home. If mom is committed to the program and dad hasn't done anything, what I suggest to moms, because this is one of the most common questions I get, what I suggest to moms is that they ask dad to watch the DVD. But the requirement is they can't be in the room with him while he's watching the DVD, because they have a tendency to say, see, now this is what you need to do, see, and they'll irritate him and he won't do anything. So and that works. So those are kind of the tricks that we use to get the dads involved, but it's very important to have them involved.
Okay, great. All right, so now
Okay.
we have both parents on the same page, and we've read the book. We understand what the program is. We're really clear on everything in chapter 6, which is sort of the if-thens. So now what?
So now we're going to sit the kids down, and we're going to have the kickoff conversation. The kickoff conversation is the shortest chapter in the book. This should take about 5 to 10 minutes. And you tell the kids, we're going to be doing some things. You know, sometimes we get a little frustrated if you guys aren't doing what we'd like you to do. We're going to do things differently around here. And you explain the counting procedure to them. And you say, you know, there's some of this you're going to like and some you're not going to like. And I say, what are we going to like? What you're going to like is that when you come out of your break time or rest period, we don't talk about it anymore unless it's new, unusual, or dangerous. And then they say, what are we not going to like? And say, what you're not going to like is if you do something that's like real bad to start with, like you hit somebody or use a real bad swear or something like that, you're going straight to the break time or to the rest period. And then you stop and you look at them and you say, do you have any questions? And sometimes the kids will kind of poke each other, like, I think mom went to the library again, you know, and got one of these books on how to raise us guys. Last time she only stuck with it for 4 days. If we hang tough and stick together, we can be running this house again inside of a week. So, you know, the kickoff conversation won't make believers out of them. It'll help, but it won't make believers out of them. So you expect some skepticism from the children. And then you say, well, here we go. And then I suggest you rehearse it with them. So the second part of the kickoff is rehearsing it. And rehearsal is fun. I mean, sometimes it's hilarious. You can do it with stuffed animals. You can have dad count mom. Dad pretends he's acting up. Mom counts dad. Dad grumpily goes off to the room, you know, for the rest period or whatever. The kids laugh. They won't laugh when you're counting them. But the rehearsal gives them a feel for it. And then you start.
Okay, great. So now, in talking about a kickoff conversation, you said at the beginning of our time here, you can use this with kids as young as 2 or even 18 months. Can you have a kickoff conversation with a toddler? That feels like it feels almost very comedic to kind of sit your very little one down and say, okay, now.
Yeah. It'll be comedic, I'll guarantee you that. Yes, you can do it. And you can do, remember I mentioned the mom counts dad, something like that. You could do the stuffed animals. You could have the little boy or girl count the stuffed animal and so on. And they'll start to get a feel for it. With the 18-month and the 2-year-olds and stuff, it sometimes takes them a week or so to get a feel for the counting. But remember, it's very, very gentle, and it's very, very clear, you know, and you can explain that no hitting hurts people, that's one, you know, and that kind of thing. So you more do a sort of a visualization of it with the little ones, the 18-month-olds, the 2-year-olds, the toddlers, things like that, and it'll help them get started.
I feel like I might need to rehearse the rehearsal first so that I don't start laughing during it.
No, you know, I mean, it is funny. So if you laugh, that's okay. Just don't laugh all the time.
Right. Fair. Good point. Okay, terrific. So we understand which kids that we can use this with, which is many of them, pretty much everyone, and how to have that kickoff conversation, and also how to get dad involved. What is the kind of the one most important thing that you would tell parents about starting the program?
Well, first, after you know what you're doing, the next most important things are going to be the no talking and no emotion rules. We just have, we parents have just such a natural tendency to yak, chatter, prattle, babble, nag, you know, all this stuff. You got to stop doing that. So if you do a count, you say that's one. There's silence after the count. It's not, that's one. Come on, now I'm getting sick and tired of this. Look at me when I'm talking to you. The guy puts on her to drive me crazy or what? That's not what you want to do. And some parents need to actually record themselves for a while because they're yakking too much. And some people talk and they don't even know they're talking. And so on. So that's the toughest part, is the get rid of the extra talking. And if the kid wants to go to 3, let them go to 3. You don't do 2, 2.5, 2 3/4, 2 7/8, you know, and that kind of thing when you're doing the counting.
Yeah. Okay. Terrific. So know what you're doing. Make sure that you've read the book and you understand the program. I think that's probably one of the most helpful things as far as not talking, right? Because the talking is sort of like our automatic ingrained response.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have a plan and you understand how to work the plan, then you're less likely to sort of just let words fall out of your mouth.
Yeah, that's exactly true. You know what you're doing, you know why you're stopping the talking, and you know what it takes to stop the talking. And it takes a lot of practice.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Phelan. If you know someone who needs to hear this, please feel free to share the video or tag them in the comments. You can sign up for our newsletter at 123magic.com. We'll be sharing.
All right. So one of the things they said in the video is to have a conversation with your child about what kind of expectations you have, how are you going to do different things, rehearse it in front of them, do some role playing with your kids, because they need to know what's going on. So it's important that when you are talking about, you know, behavior, he also in the video talks about knowing the plan. So there's many videos on YouTube that talk about 123 Magic. They have the book that you can get. It's good ways to help you understand how to do the program, because you don't want to start it and you don't know what you're doing. Like if you're counting, you're not talking in between the counting. So if they're, you know, not getting up, you're like, okay, that's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And so at the third time, if they're not doing something, you know they're supposed to go to the timeout place. If they're doing behavior that's dangerous or hurtful, they go directly to timeout. So that's something that you have to, you know, really work on. Because sometimes we get frustrated and we want to be like, this is why you're not supposed to do this. Why are you doing this? You know, you start to have long, deep conversations and they will tune you out. They will not listen to you. So you want to make sure that you are quiet. If you change the way you are, they will adapt to how you change. So that's very important. You can't change somebody's behavior if you don't change your own behavior. So this thing says, don't worry that children never listen to you. Worry that they're always watching you. Kids are like sponges. So they watch how you respond. So if you're some people are very quick with their emotions and they get angry really quickly. Your children will also sometimes have that same kind of behavior. I had an example today. I had a preschool student who likes to use some choice words with others. So he uses a lot of inappropriate words at school. So in our conversation, I said, well, how did you learn these words? How did you, learn these words? He learned it from his parent. And as parents, sometimes we may use choice words that may not be the best words to use, but we have to be very mindful of how, if we say them in front of our kids or how we act in front of our kids. Just like sometimes somebody may call that you like a bill collector or somebody you may not want to talk to. And you're like, oh, she's not here. The kids are watching you and they're listening to you like, oh, she told us a little bit of a story. And so they'll start to learn those kind of behaviors too. So we have to be very careful about what we do in front of our kids. We can't just say as I do, you're their example. You're their first teacher. You are their first teacher. So whatever you're doing, they're watching you.
Let's do as I say.
Yeah, right. Do as I say, not as I do. I'm gonna pass things. Okay. We'll just want the positive reinforcement.
All right. Okay. So here are some the start behavior strategies, and this is how you are gonna manage positive behaviors. So you want to start off with positive reinforcement. So positive reinforcement, you're trying to replace the negative behavior, or you're trying to change the behavior by using something that they may like. Also, again, we want to go back to simple requests, keeping it the talking very minimal. You might want to use a kitchen timer, the docking system, and I think we went over that the last time at the last session. You want to use natural consequences, charting, so like maybe a sticker chart or some type of token system, counting different versions, and then you also you can use more than one tactics. It just depends on the problem or the situation.
So we'll go back to the morning routine. So some of you are having problems with your kids getting up on a regular basis. So the night before, you want to make sure their kids' uniforms are out or they're closed for school. And you remind them, this is what we're going to do. Use your chart. You make a chart, the expectation. We're going to get up at 7:45. We're then going to brush our teeth. And every time that they do something, you can put a sticker. You say, okay, you did this. That's a sticker. You do this. And you say, okay, you set a goal for the week or you set a goal for the day. And you say, okay, if you have 10 stickers today, I'm going to give you an extra 10 minutes to watch TV or play with a toy or those things. Or you could build it up to the point, well, if I have 50 stickers, we can go to the $1.25 store. It's not the dollar store anymore, but the $1.25 store. You can pick out one item. Or I may say, well, we have 50 stickers. Well, you can invite a friend over to play. So you want to set all of this up in advance because you don't want to do it last minute. You can sit and have a family meeting about what the expectations are and how you're going to reward. So you write it out so everybody knows what's going to happen. Everybody's going to get a bank. The kids can pick out a bank and paint it. And you can use this as one of your reward systems. You can put a penny in it. Every time they do what your expectation are, you put a penny. You set up, like if I have 20 pennies, we can do this. Or if I have 100 pennies, I can go to the dollar store, $1.25 store. Or they can say, well, I want to use, 10 of my pennies to do this. So you set up, you talk with your kids. What are some things that you like? They'll tell you. And then you set up your chart and the value of how many pennies they need to do certain things. It does take a lot of work. But if you're trying to change behavior, it takes time. You just have to be consistent.
So going back to the positive behavior, I forgot to add that with positive behavior, you also want to give like immediate praise. So if they change the behavior, you want to acknowledge it and give them immediate praise for it, because it'll help to, keep that the behavior that you want, the positive behavior, to be consistent and to change.
And also, if the kids are not doing what you want to do, you can take away things. Like, okay, well, you didn't do it. I'm gonna have to take 1 penny away. And if you do better, then you can earn it back. But you can take it away and they can earn it back. So you're teaching them those types of skills.
And I don't know if they know what immediate praise is.
Okay.
Just to kind of give an example of what immediate praise is. So like if they were to do something that you wanted them to do, you would acknowledge and say, oh, that was a good job. You did a really good job. So that's immediate praise.
Just like an example of clean, how many people want their kids to clean up the room or put everything back where where it's supposed to go? Okay. One of the things is that we have to teach our kids what our expectations are. If you have a room and you want them to clean it, you can't just say, go clean your room. You have to be able to show them what a clean room looks like to you. So if you say, well, I want you to clean your room, and that may be, I want you to put your shoes away, I want you to fold your clothes, I want you to make your bed, and show them exactly what it looks like. And then you say, okay, well, you do it so I can help you to show you what it looks like. Because oftentimes we may tell a kid to go clean the room, and then you come in there and you're like, this is not clean. This is not what I think clean is. So you have to teach them what clean is and show them this is what clean looks like in your room. Okay. So this is some of the positive reinforcement. So you may, like I said, in the morning time, getting up and you're trying to change that kind of behavior. If they do everything you say, good job. I'm glad that you're following the rules. That's verbal reinforcement. You have to adapt it to each child. Every child is different. So you have to see what works for your children. If you have multiple children, every child is different. Some children may like, well, I really don't care that you said great job. I may like the sticker on the chart. It's good to do it. You don't want to just do it privately, but you also want to do it publicly. So if they're out in public and they did a great job in the store walking down, I liked how you were good in the store today. It was really helpful. And in that time, you're developing relationships with your kids. You want to have a good, strong relationship with your child. You want your child to be able to talk to you about different things. So you want to be able to, you don't want to be negative all the time, like you're always yelling at your kids, because kids, they won't respond to you. They'll start to say they'll shut down. So you want to have a better, positive relationship with them. And you also sometimes a positive reinforcement is unexpected. So, if you are faith-based, sometimes, you may use prayer to, talk about some of the behaviors that you don't like, and you ask God to give you direction. If you're faith-based or whoever you believe in, to give you direction, and the kids also may do that as well. So, and use that. So you might, for example, I'm a Christian, so my child we're going to pray to God. We're going to talk about some of these things that we need to work on, and we may pray to God and say, "Give us strength, give us vision, help us, and help us to listen and follow whatever you tell us to do." So that's another way to promote that.
All right, so some reinforcements. We have natural reinforcements. So just like we talked about the chart, having a chart, giving them a sticker for every time that they do well. Again, the immediate praise whenever they do well, telling them that they did a good job, and satisfaction. And then we have our artificial reinforcements, which could be extra time to maybe spend more time watching TV, playing with their toys, maybe a trip to the store, like maybe one of their favorite stores, or getting something that they like to eat, one of their favorite foods, communication, maybe even adding to a collection of maybe their favorite toys. Like I know like boys like to, collect the Pokemon cards. So maybe you can add to that. And the girls, I think they're into the LOL dolls, so they can add to that collection. So those are just a list of some things, some reinforcement, different types of reinforcements.
Does anybody have any questions? Has anybody done the reinforcement or the positive praise?
We have a few things
Oh, you,
nodding their
okay.
head.
Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about genuine praise and phony praise. Because phony praise, you just kind of overuse it. You're like, oh, great job, good job, good job. And then it kind of loses its whole purpose. So you want to be able to inspire your kids. You want to make sure that they become independent. Our whole goal as a parent is to have independent children that they'll be able to take care of yourself, whether you're here or not here. So that's really one of your goals. So we're going to watch another video about the power of praise.
Hi everyone, Kate Berkner here today with Dr. Phelan, author and creator of 123 Magic and the author of the Manager Mom Epidemic. Dr. Phelan, welcome.
Good morning, Kay.
How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well.
Good, glad to hear it. So today we are going to, obviously with 123 Magic, we've got counting, which is what we use to stop obnoxious behaviors. And then the other side of that is encouraging good behaviors, which we do not use counting for using the 123 Magic system. So I know you've got a few strategies that you discuss when it comes to encouraging good behavior. And, there's one that you feel is really powerful. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and that would be praise. It's in some ways very familiar, but in many other ways very neglected tactic. It's one that parents often more naturally use with the little kids, and then they stop doing it almost altogether with their teenagers and with their spouses. It gets kind of difficult, but it's praise. It's acknowledging verbally or non-verbally that you are pleased with what somebody else did, and it really is strong. And like I said, we just don't do it as much as we should.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you give us some examples of both verbal and nonverbal praise that you might use for, let's say, a 7 or 8 year old, since we're, talking about how we use it a little bit less as kids get older?
Sure. Yeah, you imagine you have a little girl, she's 8 years old, she's working on her homework and it involves handwriting. And so you look at what she's doing and you say, wow, your handwriting is coming along really well. Okay, that would be an example of verbal praise. Example of nonverbal praise would be while she's doing that, you come up and you say, put your hand on her shoulder. And maybe you don't say anything at all, or maybe you just say that looks really good or something. But that would be a nonverbal praise in addition to the verbal praise. But it's acknowledging that she's making you feel good by her behavior at that moment.
Terrific. So why is it that we kind of tend to stop using praise? Obviously, with small children, oh, you said the word ball, good job. We can be very effusive. Why is it that we sort of start to use it less as kids get older?
I think one of the reasons is expectations, that as they get older, you expect them to be, expect you to do homework, expect you to get up and out, and expect you to eat your dinner and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of people in the United States, and I guess all over the world, have an idea in their heads, why should you praise anybody for doing what they're supposed to be doing in the first place? And we forget that these are little kids who are still growing up, and praise is very effective in establishing and maintaining positive behavior. So we need to acknowledge it, and little kids do that. Another thing, though, is when the kids get older, and we're talking about the teens that we were talking about before, they really are, they look almost adult-like. And so you think, why should I be praising you? You look like you're an adult. But the other thing is that teens do irritating things to parents, like snub them. You say, how was your day? They say, fine. You say, what'd you do? They say, nothing. That's the adolescent snub. It's a very normal thing, but it's irritating. And so when the adolescents are pulling away from us and, talking to their peers all the time and sort of ignoring mom and dad, we think, oh, I'm not praising, you don't praise me, I'm not praising you, fair is fair. And we just kind of drop the ball, which is very sad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think even as adults, we appreciate praise and that sort of positive interaction.
Definitely true. Definitely true.
So what types of things should parents be using praise for in order to sort of help encourage these good behaviors and continue to build strong relationships with kids?
Yeah, well, as you were mentioning before, we use for obnoxious behavior, we're not going to use praise. Now, you could praise a child if they stop whining, but basically, we use counting for obnoxious behavior, but to get the kids to do the good things. So if they're eating their dinner, say, wow, you look like you're really hungry. If they're doing their homework, wow, you're putting a lot of effort into that. Or this morning, boy, you got ready in record time. You had that book bag packed and you were out the door, and wow, I was so proud of you. That's great. So it'd be anything that's a positive behavior that you see them doing, you want to acknowledge. And you're not going to do it every single time, but you want to remember to do it, fairly frequently.
Yeah, and is there a right or a wrong way to deliver praise?
There is. There's a notion, I call it tailoring praise to the receiver. So you have some kids who like syrupy, gooey praise. Oh my gosh, and you're spelling, and just amazing. I can't believe it. We're going to fax it. We're going to send it to grandma in Florida. This is just a wonderful thing. And some kids will eat that up with a spoon. The phrase good job, which gets maligned a lot, good job. That's kind of gooey and so on, but it can also be effective. But there's some kids, especially when they get older and especially teenagers, who don't like gooey, syrupy praise. What they like is they like more business-like praise. Or, wow, you put a lot of effort into that. I really appreciated your helping me with the kitchen. Good job, good work. Something like that. And so with a gooey kid, a gooey receiver, you can give business-like or gooey praise. With a business-like receiver, you don't want to give gooey because you'll embarrass them and you wind up embarrassing yourself.
Fair enough. So just kind of understanding your child and how they want to be talked to, and what really is going to make a difference for them, because the reason that you're praising is to indicate to them that they've done well and that that they're doing a good job, and so making sure that they're hearing it that way.
Right. And you think sometimes if you have two choices, you're not doing what I'd like you to do. I could nag you, okay, or I could wait till you do it and praise you, or whatever. But usually the praise in the long run is going to be more effective than the nagging.
Yeah, absolutely. So in 1-2-3 Magic, you talk about two things that parents can do to make praise even more effective. Can you share what those two things are?
Yeah, one is praise in front of other people. So your child's there and say, wow, you should have seen Melissa on the soccer field today. The other kids didn't know it hit them. And Melissa, your daughter, is standing right there. That's called bragging. Some people say, oh, I don't want to brag about, oh, just be quiet, just do it. Just brag in front of your kid and brag in front of somebody else. The other thing is unexpected praise. So your son's up and he's playing his guitar in his room and you call up there and you say, hey, Jason. He says, what? You say, did I tell you what a good job you did cutting the grass today? When you said, hey, Jason, he might have been expecting something else, negative, but it's unexpected. It comes out of the blue. And kids remember that. And, as you were saying just a minute ago, too, unexpected and in front of other people applies to praising spouses and partners, too. So you do it, praise your spouse in front of the meal that Sherry made the other night was just tremendous, or something like that. And it's much appreciated, I guarantee you.
Fantastic. Well, this has been really great. Thank you so much, Dr. Phelan. If you are interested in learning more about how you can use praise to encourage good behavior and
Okay, some of the things from that video, they talked about gooey praise, and they talked about business-like praise. So you have to kind of know your kids. Some kids like to say, oh my gosh, you did an awesome job. It's excellent. Other kids like, well, I appreciate the fact that you put these things away. So it's not as, ooh, really, big. And that also, and they were talking about how unexpected praise, like out the blue, just like you might be in the car riding, and you might think about something that your child did, say, I like how you did that. So it's out the blue. It's not something that they're expecting. And also the other one was when you're in front of other adults or other friends, sharing the good things that your child has done. It's very important, and your kids can hear it because they're like, oh, my mom and dad are proud of me. And that goes along with your spouses or people that you live with. If you're wife makes a great meal, if your husband makes a great meal, acknowledge that they did something well, because that also, we need it just like a child needs praise and acknowledgement. Let's do that.
So 2 simple requests. So you want your voice, you want to watch your voice, the tone and the clarity of how you speak to your child. You want to minimize spontaneous requests. Remember, we want to keep it very minimal, just one command and that's it. You don't want to keep talking. Don't be wishy-washy. So be consistent. And no phrasing. So
one of the things when they talk about being, you want to be clear with what you ask. So if you ask something, I said, I need you to make your bed. Walk away. Don't keep talking about, okay, did you make your bed? I need you to make your bed. When it says don't be wishy-washy, be clear in what you're saying. Okay, I think I want you to make the bed and maybe do something else. You want to be clear, concise with what you want them to do. If you don't want to confuse them, like, okay, I want you to make your bed, put your shoes on and brush your teeth. That's too many commands. One command at a time. You want to be clear with that. And you don't want to phrase different things, like you just want to be clear and concise when you are giving requests. So train your child or keep quiet. Like I said before, when I talked about the example of the room, you need to show them your expectation. If you're not going to train them correctly, then you can't really argue with them or tell them you didn't do it right because you didn't tell them how you want it to be done. So you need to tell them, show them, practice with them, and then when it's time for them to independently do it, say, go clean your room, there should be no confusion about it. And if they don't, say they didn't do something correctly, like, okay, well, how can we fix this? This is not done how we talked about, so what should we have done? And let them explain it to you. Because there's no need to get all upset. Well, you didn't do this and you didn't do this right. Why did you do this? There's no need. Just talk it out and talk it through.
So either teach them how to do it or do it yourself.
Right.
That is the next slide, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So setting those timers again. So you want to start a behavior routine. Routine. All right. So you beat the timer, man against the machine. Nonverbal, emotional, not testable.
So your timer, you have your phone on your timer, and when the kids should know, once you set that phone, they're on the clock. It's once you keep doing it. If you keep doing it, they'll know. Once you set the timer, I know I got to keep moving. They'll know. Now the first couple times, it's going to be a little difficult, but as you keep practicing, remember I'm setting the timer for 15 minutes, they'll start to get better with the time.
So the times where you want to use the timers would be during bedtime, bath time, when they're doing their chores, when they're getting up in the morning, getting dressed, doing their homework, and even with sibling rivalry if they're fighting with their siblings. So you want to set those timers.
So like at bedtime, if you have a set bedtime, say 8:30. 15 minutes prior or maybe even 10 minutes prior to going to bed, you're going to set that timer and tell them you have 10 minutes. When the timer goes off, we go to bed. There's no, I want to stay up. Remember, when the timer goes off, we go to bed. You give them the time. You prepare them ahead of time so they know it's time to go to bed. And if that means you have to turn the TV off when they cry, you say 1. That's 2. That's 3. By the time they get to 3, they should be in the room because they know it. Like the first time when you do it, you're going to have to put them in timeout. And then you go to the room. If you have to turn the TV off, you have to be firm in what you tell them, in your tone and your voice, and then, make sure that they go to bed. And your bedtime routine should be not just turning the TV off. It should be sitting and reading a story with them. If you're faith-based, it could be saying your prayers at night. But you need to have a calm and peaceful transition to bed because it makes it easier for them to get up in the morning. You don't want to get in the bed and you're yelling at them to get in the bed. You want to have you calm and peaceful. And that's the same time even when it's time to get up in the morning. You want it to be calm and peaceful because when they come to school, they're upset because they may come into my office and they're crying because of something that happened at home. So you want to give yourself enough time to get them up in a way that is calm and peaceful and have a regular routine.
Yes, we see that a lot. When the kids are not having a good morning, they come in crying, they come in frustrated, and they're in the counselor's office.
Right. So, and it's going to make it easier for you if you have your own bedtime routine. So if it means we watch a little TV, you know the TV goes off at a certain time, you set the timer, it's bath time, get in the bath time, and now it's time just for us to sit and read a book. Say if you're a faith-based, say your prayers, and then we're going to take some deep breaths. Because deep breaths are good to get them to get ready to go to sleep. So you take some deep breaths. All right, I'm turning the lights out and we're going to sleep. Do not use your TV as a timer to go to bed. No, 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 and no. It's not, they should not be falling asleep with the TV on. That is like the worst thing to ever do. So you need to take away all their electronics. If they have cell phones, you want to collect those. They don't need them because they're sleeping. So you want to take their cell phones, their little games they're playing. You want to take all of that out because you want to have a peaceful night so they can sleep peacefully. Sometimes some kids have difficulty sleeping. You might want to check with your doctor. You can give them some melatonin. You can talk to them about that. But you want to create a calming effect so they can sleep peacefully. Okay. No, I'm good. So this is the thing when we're talking about taking things away and adding. So the docking system is where you're saying, okay, if you do this, you get a penny. If you don't do something, we'll have to take it away, but you still can earn it back. But that's something that's, again, a family meeting and discussion in order to do that would be the most appropriate. And you're going to discuss about having goals, how long it's going to be, what the rewards are, how, if you do this, you'll get this amount of money. If it's chores, you may say, we get 5 cents. If you make up your bed, your room is clean, and I check it. Or I'm going to take some things away from you. I just might not work with everybody. Like I know I have a parent or a coworker, her son was having difficulty listening, so she had a jar. And she went to the craft store and got pom-poms. So every time he would do what she expected, she would put the pom-poms, and then they would count them up. And he would say, oh, I have so many, I can do this, this, and this. But like I get it, you have to plan these things out and you have to be consistent with them.
That's right.
Yes. It's all, you do it combined. So this is just an added, with this is adding to your 1, 2, 3 magic. So for example, if you want them, the countdown is when they're wanting them to change the behavior. 1, that's 2, that's 3. But to kind of, so you don't have to get to that point. Because you're going to have to use this from time to time because kids are, everybody has their good days and bad days. But the docking system, the charting system, the routines, that's something that you want to put into place ahead of time. That kind of helps with having to do the 1, 2, 3 less. So if you have a whole system where, like in the morning time, you list all the things you want them to do, and you put a pom-pom in the jar, you put a sticker by the jar, they'll start to get into the routine and know what the expectations are. So this one is about charting. So you can do this for yourself or chart it. You can have your chart, but you also want to be able to keep a track of yourself to see how well it is going. Because then you can evaluate, like, is this not going well? Why are they not doing these things? Do I need to talk to somebody else, like a counselor, or do I need to talk to the pediatrician or something? Because we're putting all these things in place, and it's been like 6 weeks, and the behavior still hasn't changed. That's something that you can bring to the doctor and say, well, we've done this, this, and this. We're consistent, and we're still not seeing any kind of changes. So there might be something else that you could do. But it's good for you to keep a track and even use it to show your kids, look how much you've grown since we started. Yes. Say this again. Yes, if you go online, there are different kind of charts that will better suit you than you can type in. It's like you type in positive reinforcement, and you can type in what you're looking for, and then you can print them out. Mm-hmm.
Because it's kind of redundant.
Okay.
You know?
That's okay.
Okay.
All right. So I know a lot of people are always talking about attention spans, about kids that have short attention spans. We have to remember about their age. Like if you're 6, it's 4 or 5 is 10 minutes. It's not long. It goes in increments of 10. It gets,
Every year.
every year. So one of the ways that we try to increase attention is have activity. You might have an active child. So you want to use that to your advantage by, okay, well, let's run around, let's do some jumping jacks, let's do some different things. Or honing in on the things that they like to do. So if they like to run, you might say, well, I'm going to join you to a track team. Or if they like soccer, or if they like to bounce the ball, okay, you're going to join basketball. So find things that they like to do. Sometimes we want them to sustain their attention and they need a break, just like we need a break. Just like in class, you might be the teacher's teaching and then you're like, I need a mental break. As adults, we go on our own mental break and we come back. We don't make a whole lot of noise because we're adults. Sometimes you may have to adjust the time frame. You could make it shorter so that they are having some success with different things. Remove visual distractions, and this is kind of more like in the class, like in a classroom setting. You're going to remove things that are too much stimulus because then they lose focus. Playing a memory game. I don't know if you ever go to the store. There's a memory game, and you're teaching kids like you turn all the cards over, and they got to find the different pieces. And you're playing a game. You're having fun, but you're also teaching memory and sustainability, how to keep their attention longer.
You can find those at the dollar store.
The last one is breaking things into smaller segments. Just like your homework, you get the homework and you're like, okay, we're only going to do problems 1 and 2. Let's look at problems 1 and 2. Great job, we did it. And like I said, sometimes kids just need an adult to sit with them. So you might have to carve out the time to sit with them to do their homework. Okay. I'll go to the next one. My time is starting to run.
Yeah.
We can keep going to that.
Okay.
Now, this last one, if you have your cell phones, this is the last one, building relationships. Our children need our presence more than they need presence, physical presence. Kids will remember the time that you spent with them more or less than the things you buy them. Sometimes we buy them to show them love. We don't need to buy them. The time that you spend with them, if you're playing games, if you're reading stories. Like I remember my mom would read to me every night. That's what I remember. I remember the gifts they bought me, but I remember my sister, my brother, and us sitting in the bed. My mom would read us to a story every single night. So that's what I remember. It's your time. Your time is vitally important to spend with your kids, and that's what they remember. If you have your cell phones, 123 Magic has a newsletter. You can put your cell phone up and you can get the QR code. She is going to send this PowerPoint to you to your email, but this is a QR code for their newsletter. You can sign up and get their newsletter, and it has different things that you can use, videos you can watch. Also, YouTube, if you go to YouTube and you say 123 Magic, they have the videos, the same videos that were in this PowerPoint, you can watch them to kind of help you remind you of what to do. And then this is called Facts for Families. I know sometimes there's things that our kids do that we may not understand, and we have tried all the behavior things that we possibly can. This is another great website that talks about mental health issues, talks about physical issues, and it kind of gives you some information. It's called Facts for Families. So, for example, say you want to see a therapist, it has information about what to look for a good therapist, or what to look for in a good pediatrician, or if my child is lying. You know, there's a whole lot of different things, but this is a very good website to use. It's called Facts for Families. We have piggy banks for your child to pick, and they can color, and you can use them when you're discussing about rewarding and positive reinforcement. Does anybody have any questions? Well, I hope that was good information for you, and you were able to pick up some things you're like, okay, I'm going to try this. But definitely try the 1, 2, 3 magic. Definitely, you know, if you have any questions, definitely go to Great Start. They have a website, and you can email if you have questions, you know, or concerns. I'll make sure that there's some charts on there that you can print off on the website. But thank you guys. It's so nice talking to you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good job. Y'all were so patient.
Yes, you were awesome.
Thank you. See you next time. Thank you for being so patient. Who's got the lights on? Yeah. El formulario, por favor.
Yes.
I'm like, good. That's paper. Yeah. That's what.
But I'll be in touch with you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. No, the chairs are good. Bye, Nicholas. Yep.
Yep, bye-bye. You took it on? Oh, I had one more email tonight.
Yes.
Oh, wow. And, look, I'll call you. I'll call you. Oh, okay, I can appreciate it. Get out of here. Are you mom? Okay. Okay.
If you want to spread it, like. Senior of the year.
I'll let her know.
Just,
Okay? Yeah. I want to go to my daughter.
I'm 45, so they're more north than me.
Look, and here she
No, somehow in New York. Oh, here, now you can see him.
Hello. That's what I'm gonna
But that's what happened.
Yeah, oh, yes. She's
So we don't appreciate you giving me your leftovers.
We waited for a few hours though. Remember your best friend, but she left.
She left. When we tried to pick her up, because I think the young lady was elegant, and mom showed up, I was like, there's something in my clothes.
Glad they were 5 hours. Oh, look, it's right there.
But yes,
I'm a call. Miss Miller got
Okay, perfect. I hope so, yes. That makes yeah, I'm just like, you gotta walk on and take on. I have to spend more time together. Thank you. Okay. Have a good one.
Hello. Yes. Eric does have great ideas. She does have great ideas. He was like this way. Girl, Miss Nurse Brown is like this big when they work on it. I thought I was out the door. Yes, first I was like, oh, she's nice. I sure do. Right, then she get mad. And guess what? I'll have to let you eat. I don't have to turn myself butt country. She's been watching. It's set up because she's on the. We have it set up. Oh, yes.
Oh, we told her the one.
We have a problem with those things. I'm like, we have to go. We have a meeting with that stuff. Oh, no. She's been quiet like this. She got my set up every time. I know. We haven't heard of this. All of them.
So these are not here.
All of them.
Okay.
When I say real, it just
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Right.
She's 3 and 4.
Because I see them, I see them.
You all right, Coco? I'll see you tomorrow. You know,
Breathe a little bit, but still. Continue to be hard.
you hear what I told her?
You know, that's my job.
Yes, I did. Oh, I didn't know that was positive. Yes, it is. You call. He is from. Don't turn around.
No, that was
For a part-time.
They give you a.
I'm giving you a calendar.
Oh,
I talked to her.
Those we don't need, though?
25 days ago.
No, they still.
Okay, let me run to the bathroom.
70
We're good? And you got lots of money?
full time, but more.
What about the folder and stuff there? You good?
Yeah, I'm gonna pack all that stuff. I think the cart is back there, so I'm gonna take all of that downstairs.
But Wednesday we're meeting at 6 o'clock. I asked Bob to create a Zoom to just, it's gonna be fast. It's just to go over,
So for the board meeting.
yeah, prepare for the board meeting on Saturday, which is just go over the agenda, go over the documentation, and that's it.
I experienced present our financial on Saturday. Because I don't have to, or it's Grace do it.
Well, it's like,
Mary and I met here, last week. This week, no, last week? She's open to doing it, but she's doing it virtual.
we did it virtually on meetings.
Or Saturday?
Yeah, in virtual. We haven't decided to do, the only time we do it in person is the retreat. That's the in person.
Okay.
But if you already invited Mary, just let Grace know that she's coming.
Okay.
You know, because I contacted Grace,
I'm
week
sorry, I
prior.
don't know who presents the financials.
It's Grace because she's the
Okay,
treasurer.
sorry, okay.
Yeah, but that's okay. You can tell her that you had a meeting with her and you invited her. And I did ask Grace to reach out to Grace,
Reach out to Mary. I saw
Mary
that.
Ann, for her to get that financial report. Because last time we didn't have that on time.
and I give her more time to get things done. I know the financial report will not include this month, but at least it will be
Yeah, that's-
until October.
We're trying to get the receipts that accumulated from all the rain
Yes.
from September and October. That's what, yeah, Marion is on my back.
Yes, yes. And that's fine. Eric has been also, I invited Eric to talk about, building the, board. To talk about the work, the goal to, we want to recruit two more board members. We need. And then I'll send you an email with interview, like, this, I want to put it in an email.
Modern assignments.
You want this extension cord?
The green one?
Yeah, we can leave it hanging on the doorknob.
Okay.
I'm gonna take this one thermometer home and put new batteries in it. I'll bring it back.
Okay.
Put it down there.
Do you need anything from us?
Nope, you guys are out?
You sure?
Yep, I'm good. I'll get this
I'll
stuff
make sure the
downstairs.
door is locked.
There's two of you standing here, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get this stuff downstairs really quick.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay. Yeah.